Hello and welcome to the Courageour Frights. My name is Sean, and today I'm going to be doing a early kind of first reactions, non-spoiler review for Alien Romulus. So I just got out of the theater for this one. I'm living in Poland right now, so probably a little bit earlier than what first screenings in the U.S. would be, aside from press releases and all that sort of thing. So, what are my thoughts on Alien Romulus? Well, first off, this is, of course, the most recent in the long running series of Alien films. It began in 1979 with Ridley Scott's Alien film, who he's a producer on this film, or maybe executive producer. This is directed by Fede Alvarez, who recently directed Don't Breathe and did the Evil Dead remake from about 10 years ago. So this one is much more focused on the horror element, first off. It's very different than some of the stuff we've had recently in the Alien franchise, which may be good news for a lot of people. It was for me. It doesn't go right into things. It takes its time to get going, which is very similar to the original Alien. This has the most similarities, I think, to the original Alien, with a little bit of mix of aliens and also kind of a sprinkling of Prometheus in there. So the lead in this, Cailee Spaeny, who is pretty good in this film, she's playing a character who is on a planet. It's kind of a Weyland-Yutani colony. We've seen these sort of things before, but it's like a mining facility. Basically, her life sucks. So her and a group of friends that she knows decide to leave the planet. So it just so happens that there's a derelict vessel floating overhead, and they decide to go on board, steal the contents of the ship, and use it to escape off-world. And of course, when they get there, they find out why it's derelict. And this being an Alien film, you can kind of guess the rest. And without getting into any spoilers, I'm going to stop there on the plot synopsis. So all of the actors do a decent job here. They're all like 20-somethings, so relatively younger actors that probably haven't been in as many credits. I think Isabela Merced was the only one I really recognized in the cast, aside from the lead, and she's been in a variety of things lately. I think she was Dora the Explorer, which is quite the jump from that genre to this. As I said, there's a very strong focus on horror this time around. A lot of like atmospheric scenes Alien fans will recognize right away. Dark corridors, but not too dark. We're not doing AVP Requiem here. We can actually see what's happening. But it's going to be very familiar for fans of the franchise. There's a lot of familiarity here for fans of the franchise, which is good and bad, and we'll get into that in a little bit. There is some great use of practical effects. As somebody who's a huge fan of creature features, especially like 1980s, 90s stuff, the usage of guys in suits for the xenomorphs, we have animatronics being used to bring the facehuggers to life. I mean, it's really some top-notch stuff. There is some CGI, but it's kind of sparingly used for a film these days. There's one egregious use of CGI, which I will talk about, especially when I get into spoilers, which will be at a later time. Overall, the cinematography is very well done. It's a beautiful film, especially the space scenes. There's a contrast where the outdoors space type stuff is very, very well done. Lots of great effects work. There's a ring around the planet, which is like Saturn. So seeing that up close is really cool. But then also there's, like I said, the grungy, dark corridors that you expect to see in an Alien film. And that's also well done here because the lighting is phenomenal. The build up towards the end is really well done. The final act is fantastic. It is extremely intense. There is some use of jump scares, but it's not an overabundance of them. and there's just this steady build up towards the end, and all hell breaks loose in that final act, and it's really wild. They introduce some new elements. There's not a lot of new lore here. If you're looking for new adaptations of the alien or something like that, it's pretty much your standard xenomorph, which may be a good thing for some people. However, there is one new creature towards the very end of the film, which they do explain, and it's pretty interesting. I mean, it's kind of a blend of a xenomorph with elements of Prometheus and even Alien Resurrection. I mean, this film kind of combines elements from every previous Alien movie. And overall, I think it does it really well. I think this was an excellent addition to the Alien franchise, and I hope to see more, either from Fede Alvarez or from someone else in the future. But let's get into the cons before I finish up the review here. It doesn't spend a lot of time explaining the facility itself. Like, it kind of just, it hits the ground running at the very, very beginning, and then it cuts to our main characters, and then there's not much explanation as to why there's so many facehuggers and everything else in this facility. It's just like, oh, well, they did experiments. I mean, they don't really get into the nitty gritty of that, which I guess they don't need to. It just depends on your views on that. There is a bit of unnecessary CG necromancy here, which you might know what I'm talking about if you're a fan of Star Wars or one of these other franchises where they bring back a dead actor. And for me, there was really no reason for it. They could have easily just used somebody else for this role, but you'll know what I'm talking about if you see the movie. And I think that is the worst use of CG in this film. Aside from that, like I said, most of it is practically done, and what's not practical is well done CG. So this kind of was even more off-putting considering how well done everything else was. There's one other negative I'd like to point out too, is the fact that for some reason, this is a thing a lot of films do these days, they need to say the thing. There's numerous times in this film where they actually quote lines from the Alien movies, and it gets a bit much really quick. It doesn't detract too much from the movie, but there is one line in particular that took me completely out of the film for just a few seconds. I really wish they wouldn't do that. It's much like the CG necromancy that I said before, where bring back a dead actor or something like that so that you can be like, oh, that's the guy from whatever movie. Yeah, it's not necessary. I wish they really would stop it, but aside from that, not too many problems with this film overall. And as I said, there's not a lot of expansion to the lore, but there is one, I don't know if it's lore expansion, but there is one element to this that's new, but it kind of combines elements of everything we've seen before, but does it in a new way. So that's kind of what I would say about this whole film. It takes every little bits and pieces from every Alien film, combines them all together, but it does it in a product that is really well made. So I would like to see more of this. I'm really glad this didn't go to Hulu. I think this was originally supposed to be a Hulu film, much like Prey was, but I think because of the success of Prey, which is a film that I also enjoyed quite a bit, it kind of pushed this to get into theaters, and I really like that. I hope it does well, and I hope we get to see more of this. I think the next thing in the Alien franchise is a television series for Hulu or FX, something like that. We'll see what that does. There's some interesting use of androids in here, which is always synthetics, whatever. And that's always been a strong suit of Ridley Scott films, and here is no exception. The actor that portrays Andy, which I can't remember his name right now, but he does a really good job playing essentially two characters. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, overall, I think really good film. I would definitely recommend checking it out, especially if you're a fan of the first two Alien films. One thing, just a little side note here before I get into, before I go. I saw this in Poland, and just as a joke, I wish they would have done something with the poster here. As some of you may know, if you look up Polish posters, they're quite hilarious, especially the ones from like the 80s. And there was one in particular that featured whatever the hell this thing is. And that was the Alien poster for the original Alien film. So I wish they would have done something more with that, or just as a joke or something, done something with it. But I guess that's not really necessary for the film. So anyway, I would say check it out. If you like this review, give us a thumbs up. Consider subscribing for more like this in the future, and you too could feel the strength welling within. See ya.